threw some numbers up on the board just from an educational standpoint, and I just like to, don't want you to memorize them, but it's just something. 137,000 veterans in the state of Idaho. It's a pretty significant number when you talk about the population. That represents 18% of the population of Idaho who are veterans, one of many wars. 35,000 of them are post 9/11, and we'll talk a little bit more about these young men and women because they are facing some significant challenges. Of that 35,000, 10,403 are in this area.
Are what?
They're in this area. So we're pretty well represented in the veteran force, and I'll come back and show you that number in a second. Question mark, how many vets in this room? So we've got a good number already in this room, all right? As I said, 18% of this 37,000 represents the portion of the Idaho population. 52%, anybody have a guess? So that is 18 to 24-year-olds that have a high school degree or less. High school degree or less. If you add in those that have the next age group, which is 24 to 35, 30% have high school or less. So look at these two numbers. So we have a large number of young men and women coming out of the 9/11 period, and senior and more senior veterans that have very limited education. So that's one of the areas that the board looked at very closely, is how do we incentivize these young men and women to come back to school, and some of the senior citizens. When you look at 65 and younger, 70,000, this number are veterans that are interested in some education. So that's what we got. 2%. This is the bottom, that's the top. 2% of this number has a college degree or higher. Only 2%. And that's something that we'll talk about, especially when we talk about 10,000 are in this area. 2% of this number have gone back to school. So we really have talked quite a bit at the university of trying to get more and more veterans into the program. And I know some of the things that Lisa will talk to. Over here, some big numbers. VA spends $440 million in the state of Idaho. It's a pretty good chunk of exposure money. 20,149 are veterans that are receiving disabilities in the state of Idaho. 2,705 are those veterans taking advantage of education opportunities. That number comes right back over here. We have a significant challenge in this state, educating those young men and women who gave up their careers, and many of them were, had graduated from high school, joined the Guard, thinking, well, I'll just help out with fires, forest fires, help out with flooding, help out with other things. Oh, by the way, you're leaving tomorrow for the Middle East. And so now they're coming back, and we've got to deal with these young men and women, and we provide that. $49.8 million is the amount of home loans that the VA supports here in the state of Idaho. So the veterans have a major impact on our state, and the federal government has a major influence of dollars coming into our state. So those are some of the numbers that I'd like to just share with you. One of the pieces that I wrote some time ago, and I'd just like to share with you because it makes sense not only for the university but also for the community. These are the strengths that a veteran brings to a school, and I think also to the community. They're graduating with a high, intense educational experience. They left here, went into the military, they were molded as a team player, and they kept getting education in truck driving and lots of different areas of expertise, and so they are really well into the education process, which doesn't speak well to this number and that number, because they're coming out and for some reason they're not continuing with their education. And especially significant because the post 9/11 GI Bill offers, I think it's $62,000 of support for them to go back to school. And so that's another challenge. They bring to our community diverse perspectives. They've been many places all over the world, experienced different cultures, different religions, different ideas, different ways of doing things. They're now, our community, we should reach out to engage some of those people in some of the processes that we do. Mental numbness, they think fast, okay. Resilience and problem solving, and that makes it a little challenge for them when they come back because they're real nimble, they're able to do things on the go, but now they come back into a structured situation, especially in college. You've got to go to class, you've got to listen, you've got to do homework, you've got to do all these things, boom, boom, boom. And they've been in a situation wherever a problem comes up, they're able to use that intellect or their gut feel to do the solutions that they see as necessary. So that's a challenge for them. They're focused and driven. Those that are going to school have a very clear idea what they want to get. And so they're really pinpointed toward that. They get off stray, things get a little bit concerned, they stress out. Service oriented. This is probably the biggest strength that this community should be thinking about, is that they're very strongly interested in serving and participating in civilian or civic activities. It's just something that come out of the military. I came out of the military. What did I do? I started looking for ways to help the community that I was involved with, because I felt that people had contributed to my success. So those are some of the things that, if things go right, those are the strengths they bring to your community. If things don't go right, then we have some challenges. And the challenges we have is a young man or woman have gone into the military, they've been individuals up to that point. They looked for themselves, they did everything for themselves, they did some team play, but now they get into the military, and the military takes that and holds it down to a team player. So they're very intense, and they fight for the gentleman or the lady next to them, but that's their role. It's a team situation. Now all of a sudden they're coming back into the community. Where's that team factor? It's not there anymore. And so many of them wind up losing that momentum, losing that understandability. So we wind up seeing disabilities. We see physical disabilities, we see mental disabilities, and social disabilities. And when we see those, a lot of these young men and women get involved with criminal activities. And it's not that they're out there to do it, it's something they fall into. And that's where the Veterans Treatment Court, which Lisa will talk to, I think is very, I joined the program, not as a member, but as a mentor. And I've been there about 3 months, and I think it's a great opportunity for those that want to get into some service, these young men and women, and she'll explain how you mentor these young veterans and other challenges that they meet. So with that, any questions I have on my part, and I'll just turn it over to Lisa, because I think she's got a real interesting component of today's presentation.
Thank you, Bill.